Konami have genuinely put players in one of the toughest situations we've seen in eFootball 2026. And the funny thing is that this problem only exists because they decided to be generous. A few months ago, they gave every single player a completely free 103 rated Frank Rijkaard through the daily penalty game, a card that many people still consider one of the best defensive midfielders in the game. Fast forward to the Legend Assemble campaign, and Konami have now given us one selection contract to pick any legend we want, but sitting there is another Frank Rijkaard. The problem is you only get one choice. If you pick the wrong player, that's it. There's no second selection contract, no reset button, and no way of taking your decision back. So the biggest question everybody is asking is whether this new Rijkaard is actually worth choosing over the free one, or if it's simply another version of the same player with a different card design. Today, we're going much deeper than overall ratings because anyone can compare a 103 to another 103. We're looking at the playstyles, the stats, Showtime Skills, the player model, the physical differences, the hidden advantages, and finally, we're putting both Rijkaards against Mark van Bommel to decide who deserves your selection contract. At first glance, these two Rijkaards look almost identical. They're both 190 centimeters tall, they both weigh 87 kilograms, they both have long legs, incredible physical presence, and almost identical technical ability. But Konami actually built them for completely different jobs. The free daily penalty Rijkaard is an anchor man, while the new Legend Assemble Rijkaard is a destroyer. And that single change completely transforms how they behave during a match. The anchor man is disciplined. He stays in front of your center backs, protects the defense, blocks passing lanes, and rarely abandons his position unless absolutely necessary. The destroyer is the exact opposite. He's aggressive, constantly looking for opportunities to step forward, press the opponent, and win the ball before attacks even begin. So, before we even touch the stats, you already need to understand that this isn't simply choosing between two Rijkaards, it's choosing between two completely different defensive philosophies. Now, let's talk about defending, because that's where the differences become much more obvious. The free Anchorman comes with 92 defensive awareness, 92 defensive engagement, and 92 tackling, alongside 88 aggression, which is already ridiculous for a free card. The new Destroyer immediately raises the bar with 96 defensive awareness, 93 defensive engagement, 93 tackling, and 92 aggression. Those numbers might not look huge on paper, but inside the game, they're actually very noticeable. Higher defensive awareness means he'll recognize danger earlier and position himself better to intercept passes. The increase in aggression means he's much more willing to attack the ball instead of waiting for the attacker to make the first move. Combined with the Destroyer playstyle, this Rijkaard feels far more active defensively. If you're someone who likes pressing high, constantly challenging your opponent and winning the ball early, the new Rijkaard immediately has the advantage because his AI naturally wants to hunt the ball. However, that's also where his biggest weakness comes from. Destroyers love chasing opponents, and while that can be amazing when it works, it can also leave dangerous gaps behind them if your opponent beats the press. That's exactly why anchormen have always been one of the safest playstyles in a football. The free Rijkaard might not rush forward to win every challenge, but he rarely leaves his position. Instead, he quietly protects the space in front of your defenders, forcing opponents to play around him rather than through him. Good players know that defending isn't just about making tackles. Sometimes the best defender is the one whose positioning stops the attack before a tackle is even needed. And that's exactly what the Anchorman version excels at. Passing is another area where these two cards start separating themselves. The free Rijkaard has 90 low pass and 85 lofted pass, while the Destroyer has 89 low pass and 87 lofted pass. The difference isn't massive, but the free version is slightly better at quick ground combinations, while the Destroyer is more comfortable switching play with lofted passes. Then Konami made the comparison even more interesting by giving both cards completely different Showtime skills. The daily penalty Rijkaard comes with Visionary Pass, while the new Destroyer receives Fortress. This is probably the biggest difference between the two cards because these skills completely change what each player brings to your team. Visionary pass isn't just about making prettier passes, it actually improves the quality of the receiver's control after receiving your pass, making build-up plays smoother and helping your teammates transition into attacks much faster. Every successful pass can feel cleaner because the receiving player controls the ball better and gets into their next action quicker. If you enjoy possession football or building attacks patiently from midfield, Visionary pass becomes useful throughout the entire match, because Rijkaard is constantly involved in your passing sequences. Fortress, on the other hand, is built for defending. Once its activation conditions are met, it turns an already elite defender into an even bigger nightmare for attackers. Tackles become stronger, interceptions become cleaner, and physical duels become even harder to lose. If Visionary pass helps your team create chances, Fortress helps your team protect victories. That's why comparing these skills isn't as simple as saying one is better than the other. It depends entirely on what you expect from your defensive midfielder. Physically, there are also some surprising differences. The free anchorman reaches an incredible 93 physical contact compared to the Destroyer's 87. That 6-point difference makes the free version noticeably stronger when shielding the ball and competing shoulder to shoulder. He simply feels heavier during challenges and is much harder to bully off possession. The Destroyer responds by becoming the more athletic card instead. He reaches 87 speed compared to 85 on the Anchorman, has slightly better acceleration, better balance, and even a higher jump, making him much more mobile when pressing all over the pitch. One card wins through strength and stability, while the other wins through mobility and aggression. The one thing Konami didn't change is the player model. And honestly, that's one of the biggest reasons Frank Rijkaard has remained one of the best defensive midfielders for years. Both versions stand at 190 centimeters with exactly the same body frame, identical arm coverage, identical leg coverage, and extremely long legs. Some players only look at ratings, but experienced players know the physical model is just as important. Longer legs mean larger interception animations, better reach during tackles, and the ability to block passing lanes that smaller midfielders simply can't reach. It's one of those hidden advantages that doesn't appear on the stat screen but becomes obvious once you've played enough matches. So, after comparing everything between the two Rijkaards, what's the conclusion? If your entire defensive style revolves around pressing aggressively, winning the ball high up the pitch, and constantly putting your opponent under pressure, then the new Destroyer Rijkaard is clearly the stronger defender. His higher defensive awareness, increased aggression, and fortress skill all work together to make him one of the most dominant ball winners in the game. But if your priority is maintaining shape, controlling the midfield, protecting your center backs, and building attacks from deep with accurate passing, then the free daily penalty Rijkaard remains absolutely incredible. This isn't a situation where one card completely replaces the other. They're both elite, but they're elite in different ways. Now let's bring Mark van Bommel into the conversation, because this is where things become even more difficult. On paper, Van Bommel almost looks like the perfect middle ground between both Rijkaards. He's also an anchorman, meaning he offers that same defensive discipline as the free Rijkaard, but unlike the free version, he has even higher aggression at 95 and a massive 94 tackling, making him one of the most aggressive anchormen Konami has ever released. His passing is also exceptional with 92 low pass and 89 lofted pass, making him arguably the best distributor of the three. If your style revolves around starting attacks from deep, Van Bommel immediately becomes a very tempting option. The problem is that football isn't played on paper. Unlike Rijkaard, Van Bommel is shorter at 187 centimeters, and his physical model simply isn't as dominant. His leg coverage drops from 185.6 to 180.5. His arm coverage is smaller, his jump height is lower, and even his overall body frame feels less imposing. Those differences might sound tiny, but over hundreds of matches they add up. Rijkaard naturally stretches further to intercept passes, wins more aerial battles, and covers more ground without even moving because of his incredible player model. That's one of the reasons Frank Rijkaard has always had one of the best defensive player IDs in eFootball history. Skill-wise, Van Bommel also brings something unique with long-reach tackle, allowing him to poke the ball away from distances where most midfielders would normally miss. Combined with 95 aggression, he constantly throws himself into challenges. Yet because he's still an anchor man, he doesn't abandon his position as recklessly as a destroyer. In many ways, he's exactly what some players have always wanted, an aggressive anchor man. So, who should you actually choose? At the end of the day, though, if I had to rank them purely as defensive midfielders, I'd put the Destroyer Rijkaard first for aggressive players, the free anchorman Rijkaard first for balanced and possession players, and Van Bommel as the best alternative if you want a different profile altogether, rather than replacing a card you already own. That's why this selection contract is so difficult. There isn't a wrong answer, only the answer that fits the way you play a football. And that's exactly why you shouldn't rush this decision, because once that selection contract is gone, it's gone forever. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.